What is bro doing during these pre-streams? Well, I have a dog groomer here right now, so they're swapping my dogs out one by one. So I was facilitating that. But every day, I don't know. I kind of just am just doing shit. I would describe a starting soon screen as basically it just allows. I don't think you need the time as much as you're letting the people gather. That's why starting soon screens are a thing. Like if you're used to having a fairly large audience, it takes people a few minutes to like realize your stream's live if they're planning on watching it. So like if you go live right away, you're talking to like 2 people. So knowing that, and then you're thinking like, okay, well, why not just start your stream? I think people just start starting them like I'm basically planning on starting my stream 15 minutes after I start it, 10 minutes maybe. And it's for all those reasons. So you're not really losing any stream time. It's not like I'm choosing to start my stream and then just be here and do nothing. Like it's usually just like, I'll start my stream while I'm taking care of a few things, and then when I come back, people will be there. This especially used to be the case for me, like when the race first got started. It was like really hard for me to stream and not have a starting soon screen because it was just the same questions every day. Just every day, man. And if I started my stream right away, no starting soon screen, I'd answer the question. Then as people roll in, they just keep asking it and keep asking it. And if you wait like 15 minutes or so, enough people get there to where like you can answer it, and then like that stops happening. Can't wait for a chat after the interview to be like, why didn't you ask them why Illyria was a fucking Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You always get a few one guys in chat after the interview, and there's just some people that, like, most people I think want, like, I don't know, kind of like interesting answers from an interview, but there's a few people that, like, you know, hate Blizzard, and they show up to these interviews and they're like, what they expected out of the interview was for the Blizzard person to look stupid. Like, they want you to, like, fucking slander them and, like, catch them into, like, a gotcha moment. And that's what they want out of it. And at the end of the interview, if it was like nice and respectful and there were some good answers, but the Blizzard person didn't look like a moron, they're just mad and they're like, "You fucked up, bro. Why didn't you fucking ask them why their game sucks?" It's like that's not what this is, man. Like that you're just you need to like go outside, bro. You need to immediately speak to a real person in real life at some point. You got to do that right now. Although I was not really feeling a stream this morning, and I was like, "Yo, could we just record this on YouTube and I'll just release it later?" And they said we would actually prefer to do it on stream with like a little eyes emoji. So I wonder what that's all about. Dude, y'all ever straight whisk shit? What? Like with a fork? No, like with a whisk. Can you whisk things without a whisk? I guess you can. Max, what could you possibly be whisking you literally never cook? Yeah, I wasn't whisking anything. I just asked if you guys did. It's like a part of my life I don't get to live. So I'm living it vicariously through you all if I know that you all whisk. Bro's munching on something fierce. Hold on. Here's what I'm eating. It's like some oats. It's like oats, honey, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, bananas, and almonds, I think. Crumb and beard. Bro. It's not a crumb. It's really hard for me to eat this because there's like almond milk in here and it's like drippy on the spoon, you know what I mean? So this is like worst nightmare for having a beard, especially one that like protrudes outwards. It's like a little bib. Speaking of which, I need a fucking haircut. But here we are. Let me Hi, I don't usually catch your stream, but I was watching your YouTube videos. I just finished those undercover oh god. I'm sorry, guys. I wish I could just crank. I know they're good. I wish I could just crank them out. But there's a lot that goes into those. It is quite good content. Oh, dude, Scott already. Max, to be honest, I think your most evergreen content is the raid leading the Limit Way playlist. You know what I should do? I should rewatch those to see if my mind has changed on any of those things. They were made so long ago. That's when I first made my YouTube channel, and I was just making content I was really passionate about. But, like, I realized that raid leading content, and really, honestly, content that just pertains to, like, mythic raid bosses, is, in my opinion, really good content, but for an extremely small amount of people, which, like, didn't really help my YouTube channel grow. So I kind of moved on to other things that were more, like, relatable, but yeah, I should, like, rewatch that and see if, like, it actually, if, like, it still holds up. I think that shit was, like, over 5 years ago. What prompted you to name this stream Beetle? I don't know. I named my stream yesterday Sled. There's not really a lot that goes into it, man. I thought you hated watching yourself. I do. I don't know if there's something broken in my brain or something, but every time I watch myself on video or see a picture of myself, I, like, can't look at it. Maybe that's some, like, low self-esteem shit, like, deep down. Like, I'm like, I don't think that's what it is, though, because I'm like, I don't really care how I look, and I'm pretty confident, I think. But yeah, I just, for whatever reason, man, it just, like, freaks me out. I just don't ever want to see myself on camera, which is ironic because I am doing that right now. Like, literally this fucking very moment. I think that's kind of standard, just like you often don't like hearing your own voice. Oh, I love hearing my own voice. Bro, I love hearing me talk. Sometimes I listen to my own YouTube clips of me just ranting about something for like 10 minutes, and I'm just like, bro, this guy has fucking got it. He knows what the fuck he is talking about. What a beast. Max is just sitting there truing his own takes like Asmon. Yeah, off stream though. Wait, new Max clip thing just spawned? What did I say? I forget. Oh, dude, that's so true. Is today going to be the first time Blizzard has done an interview specifically about a raid like this or not? No, they do this a lot. As far as I know, we have been offered an interview like this after every Race to World First. It's like the Race to World First interview, and it's always with encounter designers. This has happened before. I don't think it happened the last two tiers though. but it did happen like 3 tiers before that. I mean, if you didn't agree with it, you wouldn't say it, right? I mean, not always, because like everything I say on here gets clipped. So like, I don't know. I'm not right about everything. Sometimes I say some shit because I'm just out here yapping, and then I'll like watch a clip from like a couple years ago or something, and I'll just be like, yeah, I don't know if that's still true anymore, or maybe that was wrong. What's your favorite thing you've been wrong about? Recently, I said that after Gallywix, there's no way they're gonna miss on Illyria. I said Illyria was going to die on like Sunday or Monday of the first week at the absolute earliest, and especially because Gallywix happened, Illyria will have to be hard. That's what I said before this tier, and that was extremely wrong. But I don't know. I feel like it wasn't a bad take. I mean, it ended up being wrong, but I feel like the logic was there. Yeah. Hi, girly. Hi, little sweet girl. Oh, okay. What a lick. She usually doesn't lick, so I usually get close to her face to give her affection, but like 1 out of 10 times, she actually just gives you the biggest fucking lick ever. Ella, would you like to tell all these people that someone here just got a bath? Do we know who it is? It's me, not really. It is her though. She's very soft and she smells very good, and she was a very good girl. She just got a bath like an hour ago. Can you guys smell her? She smells very, very. Oh, dude, dog shampoo smells so good. Hi. Is that not enough? Hmm? Who's got your little paw, huh? Oh, it's your stream now. Okay. Anything to tell the people? Do you have anything to say? Does not appear so. She wants those. Oh yeah, she sees those oats right here. Do you see this? She sees these. Dude, the oats are calling to her like the fucking Green Goblin mask right now. Okay, no, Ella. All right, come here, girl. God damn. Oh yeah, she knows what she wants. Just grab a pop real quick. She won't eat them. Yeah, I'm gonna go grab. I'm gonna do exactly that, but I'm gonna bring this and my coffee so she doesn't take it. Pink Crocs in slow mode. Wait, is the chat in slow mode? I don't even know how to... How do you, like, change your chat? Nah, slow mode's off, dog. Oh, you mean... Not in sport mode. I see, I see, I see. Max, I saw Twitter reply guys saying Lura is a 2-digit pull count boss now for new guilds. Is that take as cooked as it sounds? Yes. So, this is where people get this mixed up. They see like a top guild, they just watch the race world first, and then they see Lura get massively nerfed. And then they assume that, and they hear top guild people be like, damn, that boss would be half the amount of pulls now, or we would have killed this boss in less than 100 pulls. But that's usually not true for the guilds that get there after the nerfs. I've pretty much always been wrong about that. Like when they've nuked end bosses before, and I mean absolutely nuked them, every single time you're like, holy shit, that's the biggest nerf ever. But like I don't think there's ever been a nerf where like an end boss goes from being hundreds of pulls to being like less than 100 ever. Maybe Jailer? I think Jailer was the most nerfed boss, end boss ever. Like I think Jailer at the end was like actually just nothing. Like ID and FSY seemed very upset. Yeah, they should be. That was actually really unfortunate. They like nerfed that shit kind of early. Advance killed it 0 minutes ago. Yeah. I'm going to guess the average pull count of guilds that are like getting to Lura now, like pull 1, they have these nerfs. I'm going to guess it's still going to be 200. Maybe that's wrong. But like there's still 6 people that if they ever die, it instantly wipes you from the beginning of the fight. That's pretty real. They nerfed a lot of the ways you can die, but like that's still a thing. You get hit by a constellation, it's instantly over. Like I don't know. I think I'm just gonna go with my normal thing where like I always think bosses are more nerfed than they are because you can only say how it would be for your guild and not anyone else's. You should look at the median, not outlier pull counts like Liquid and Echo. But like Liquid and Echo end up usually having the same amount of pulls as other guilds though, because we were doing it without a video, right? Like doing it without a video is adding a lot of pulls because you just have to figure out a boss, you know? And both of us do a fair amount of that on end bosses. So usually our pull counts end up being right around the same as other guilds because of that. But you had to watch your own gameplay, so actually you did have a video. Ooh, true. Still got that high guard ad. Didn't it shut down a month ago? Yeah, but I feel like it goes insanely stupid to just like I basically did that High Guard ad. I went to their event, played their game, sponsored it. By the way, I actually liked the game. That High Guard was pretty fun, really unique. But yeah, they now it's just a bit because I forgot to take it off my stream elements, and now it just like a couple times a stream just advertises High Guard, and I'm just gonna keep it forever. I think as like a relic. Oh, 1 second. I gotta get my dog. Last dog is here. Alrighty. So it starts in 3 minutes, but I have to eat as many of these oats as possible. The dent goes brazy. Wait, do I have a headphone dent this early? It's pretty... It's not that bad. It's like starting to get there. You can see it, but like it's not... Bro, the headphone dent goes crazy on my hair. It's like, it's so bad. How much is dog wash delivery in LA? I actually don't know. It's probably, I don't know, like a couple $100. What breeds are the dogs? They're all dogs. Okay, let me figure out how to open this thing. Oh, perfect time for some sips. Where the Zoom? Or Teams. Aren't they Microsoft Teams people? Because it's Microsoft now. Let me type in Blizzard. Here we go. Sent April 13th. And he already sent the meeting. Okay, W, I got it. Oh no, did I freeze my... Oh no, we're good. Dude, does anyone have the issue of plugging in a PS5 controller into your PC and for some reason it overrides all of your sound settings? And it like wants to be your microphone and speakers? Just like a virus. Hello.
Okay, hop off.
Oh, I'm muted. I think you might be fine. Just give me a sec. You guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Let me find some... I'm gonna, like, make this look normal on my stream without, like, doxing everyone. Give me a second. How do you guys know how to hide the like sidebar on the right? No, perfect.
Fortunately not, no. Yeah.
Okay, I can figure this out. Okay, it's extremely sketchy, but I think I did it. Okay. Great. Let me fix my camera here, and we'll be good to go. All right. So just to get started, so I see we have Anthony and Taylor on here. Could you guys mind introducing yourselves and telling all the people what you guys do?
Sure. Hi, my name's Anthony Trejo. You can also call me Tony. I'm a senior game designer on the World of Warcraft team. I joined Blizzard back at the start of like Legion development, joining on the QA UX team, also known as like the internal Blizzard rating guild. So I was responsible for a lot of testing and giving feedback and playtesting encounters, very early versions of them before they released. And then a few years later, I moved and joined the design team, helping work alongside the development teams of Classic and TBC Classic, as well as Plunder Storm, Delves. And then for Midnight, I helped work on Midnight Raids, so March on Quel'Thanos and the Voice Fire Raid.
Sweet.
Hey, yeah, my name's Taylor Sanders. I'm a lead encounter designer here on the World of Warcraft team, and most of my work focuses on the development of our rating content.
Sweet. And also, Anthony, we raided together, right? Very briefly back in the day?
Yeah, it was many, many moons ago
I think
on a
10,
game called
12?
WildStar.
Yeah, a long time
Yeah.
ago. I think
Yeah.
I think we killed we did Mythic, or I guess it was Heroic at the time, Terrace of the Spring, right?
I don't remember. It was so long ago at this
Yeah.
point. But yeah, I used to raid in Midwinter back in the day. That's kind of how I started at Blizzard. They were recruiting like very high-end players. So yeah, really cool way of getting into Blizzard.
Yeah, awesome. Because I think people care about like that pipeline. You know, like do our devs play the game? Like, well, a lot of cases they literally came from playing at a very high level, and then we're passionate about encounter design and stuff, which I find cool. All right, we're gonna get started. So, there's one thing that happened in this progression here that I found interesting. We actually swapped to trying to two-phase Bellerin before we even knew that it was possible, just because the small glimpse we saw of P3 just was so unbelievably hard. That we were just like, I don't even know if that was even going to be possible. So my question is, what did that phase actually look like? Because like I assume the orbs still amplified in some way, like they do going into the second P1 of Bellerin. Was like what actually happened in P3?
Yeah, initially designing that part of the encounter, I kind of expected all the mechanics to ramp. So the Echoes did have a fourth wave, at least the very early version of that encounter. The tank mechanic didn't really change much. I did test the idea of having 3 meteors, but that was a bit too
Oh
crazy.
my god.
Yeah, and then healer debuffs would go on the entire raid. But after testing with our QA UX team, it was seeming like too much of a challenge. So I instead changed the design to more of what you saw on live, where a lot of the mechanics would ramp up at the very start of the encounter, and then I reduced how much would ramp up over the course of the fight. So if you had seen that third bird phase, you mostly would have seen kind of a repeat of that second bird phase, but with higher healing reduction on the raid.
Oh, okay. So no like four. There isn't like four walls or like a
No, no.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Scott, do you have one?
Yeah, this kind of leans into that question a little, but were there any fights or phases that we did on bosses that like we were doing a completely different way than you guys kind of intended us to do the fights?
Yeah, I mean, Bellerin is definitely top of mind there. I intended for that to be killed on the third egg. The fight actually berserks after the third egg if you don't kill it in time. So the 2 egg strategy that you guys ended up using was something, I was worried about that being the case, but it's not something that I was anticipating. We tuned it very tightly, and I think the thing that gained you that the capability of executing that strategy was the augmentation of Ochre Tech. Splitting your Augs in a clever way to get a full strength ebb and might on those two characters was something we didn't expect you would be able to do. So, it ended up being a really cool and rewarding way to solve the encounter. It's a creative way to skip a phase. So it provided a challenge in a different way than I intended. So I ended up being really cool with it.
Yeah, I'll also mention there was a strategy we expected you to use that you didn't use, that our internal testing team was using, which is the extra crystal time in the phase 3 of Lura, which I've heard you guys talk about since. But yeah, that was something our internal team found and that we actually tuned for. But your DPS was just that much higher than our expectation that you didn't need the extra time. So that was something that we expected to see, and we were sort of by the end of the race, like screaming at our monitors, for you guys to use.
To use it. That's funny.
So yeah, but it was cool to see you guys, work through the other elements of that phase for sure.
Did you, when you guys are doing internally testing, did you use the extra seed at the end just to give you 5 seconds more, or did you have 2 extra seeds at the end from doing like the single at the very beginning of P3 as well? Was it that? Like you were expecting us to have 10 more seconds?
We expect you to have about 10 more seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I think maybe that kind of goes into why, and we'll talk about this a little later, about like why the secret phase was such a surprise, is we were like, this damage check is so hard that like it would be crazy if there's another phase after this, but it makes a lot more sense knowing that you guys thought there would actually, because like 10 more seconds, that damage check would have been hold all cooldowns, not hard to beat, right? Okay, that makes sense. So we saw for the second time now a boss without a dungeon journal in Illyria. Well, mostly without a dungeon journal, like P1 was still the case. Like Gallywix was very much still like this. First of all, I want to just say before anything else, like it is still, being the guild that's able to do these bosses without a dungeon journal is just extremely cool. Like it's really, really fun, regardless of the difficulty. But I wonder, is this something where now that this has happened twice, where this could be on like a more mid-tier encounter where you can mess around with this more rather than having it be an end boss? Like is it challenging in a way to find a difficulty on, and again, Illyria is weird, it's not really the end boss, it's like the end boss of the first week, which I think in previous interviews he said a penultimate boss, but it seems challenging to make a boss as difficult as it maybe should be, but also trying to hide some of that difficulty in the unknown. And like, where's the difficulty of executing a fight versus being able to figure it out and trying to find a medium there? Like, I guess 2 parts to that question. Like, we see more of these bosses in the future being mid-tier, or if they're going to be later in the raid, like what goes into actually like properly balancing an encounter like that?
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about the intent of the dungeon journal and why we may have made some of those changes this tier. So originally, the dungeon journal is really there to provide you a guide, right? If you pull up to encounter and you have no idea what you're doing, and you haven't read your guild's document, like it should be able to give you, a few notes about how to execute the encounter, especially on lower difficulties, right? That's really why it was originally implemented into the game and the spirit of the feature as a whole. I think we've been experimenting a little bit more with making some of the details of spells, especially mythic changes, more ambiguous. And generally, we've liked how that has played out this tier. If you think about higher level difficulties and the players that engage with mythic in particular, these players are generally players who are excited by the discoverability of mechanics. They're excited by the ability to test different things. They have a high tolerance for, in general, for like wiping and trying a new thing and like seeing how that plays out in a different pool. So that level of like ambiguity is a little bit more suited towards mythic. And to your point about like which encounters would we expect more of this, I think any encounter where we can not to say hide, but like introduce more discoverability and ambiguity, right? For you, the player, to learn about the encounter. When that's a fun experience and we think it's an experience that's worth having, we're going to be more willing to hide some of that information. And also in key narrative moments that we might not want to, reveal. Like in the past, we've seen a lot of secret phases and things like Gul'dan at the top of the Night Hold and the Illidan phase, and those things just generally play a little bit better, and they're a little bit more surprising and fun for the player if we're not telling you that Illidan comes down at 0% health, right, and the fight changes. So we also lean on that in narrative moments when we need to hide a little bit of information where we think that will be a fun surprise.
Cool.
Yeah, I have a question about a recent change that was made this raid, but how does the team approach like visual clarity of mechanics? And are there any lessons learned maybe from this tier, Paladin and Lura encounters, which both received recent changes? Because like this was done after I think Undermined or for Undermined, where visual clarity was a massive feature of that patch. There was a massive change to soaks and everything, and I just wondered about those changes recently.
Yeah, visual clarity is a huge focus for the team. If you think about a game, all of the things that are happening on your screen during an encounter, right? There's dungeon art, there's class visuals contributing to that. There's our own encounter mechanics, environmental details, item procs. A lot goes into that pot. So we spend a large amount of time iterating on encounter visuals and making sure that they're hitting the right level of what we call like affordability. So essentially that each mechanic is proportional to its importance in moment-to-moment gameplay. We're generally happy with how the swirls, as we call them, the damage zones that we implemented in that patch have played out, and we're looking for other ways where we can have a more like reusable, clear visual for players on the ground. It's funny you mentioned Paladins. I think one thing we learned in Paladins in comparison to, Paladins is this encounter that really focuses on the 3 archetypes of the Paladin class, right? Like Ret, Prot, and Holy. And it's very similar in terms of its encounter structure and fantasy to the Demon Hunters encounter in patch 11.2. I think one thing we learned is that we didn't have quite as much color variation to play with. If you think about Demon Hunters as a class, they have elements of like Shadow, Fel, and especially with the new spec Devour, they have like this cosmic color to them, right? Like Cosmic Void. We didn't really have that to play with, so you'll see sort of late in development we tried to find different ways to differentiate the Paladins. The Prot has a little bit more color of like bluish, the Ret has a little bit more like aggressive tones in red and orange. And the Holy is like very traditional yellow. So we tried to do that differentiation, but one thing I learned through development is that whenever we do a council like this, we need to make sure that we have clear differentiation between each of the bosses.
Cool. Okay, so there was another thing, speaking of like things that aren't in the dungeon journal, you don't have to do like an entire boss where it's like the bit is you don't really gonna know what's gonna happen. But on Lura, like the Grim Symphony mechanic was one that we had like talked about a bunch of different ways for that to go. We were like, okay, maybe it's like 2 frontals that come out of, I guess it wouldn't be a frontal in this case, a sidle, like come out of the sides of the boss and you can choose who goes down. And it actually, even though we knew what that fight did on Mythic in the Dungeon Journal, it was kind of interesting to be like, there's this one massive unknown that we don't quite know. We kind of theorized the last phase was going to be like a Denathrius type split, but we didn't actually know, especially with how the bosses like replicated damage and stuff like that. I guess, is that like something we could look forward to more in the future as a way to like make a boss more surprising? Because we're pretty good at data mining now, even though on that exact fight, you guys did a really good job of hiding the secret phase with like the stuff was not as easily data mineable. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but like specifically Grim Symphony, is that something where like we can look forward to in the future to make bosses more surprising without like literally hiding everything in the dungeon journal?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're pretty happy with how that played out in particular in the way that you're describing. And our goal with the Dungeon Journal in times like this is just to make sure you're equipped with the right tools to understand how to solve the mechanic. It doesn't mean that every mechanic needs to have every detail detailed in an encyclopedic way in the Dungeon Journal, but that you feel like once you're seeing it play out and you start experimenting with the mechanic, that the tooltip reads accurately, and it has you have the tools as a player in the game to be able to work through them. And I think that was the case with Grim Symphony.
Okay.
Yeah, so a question I had as well is it's been an aim for a long time to fix like the healing output of healers and the damage intake from like bosses to be less bursty. And this expansion, a big change was a lot of healers lost those throughput cooldowns, like the massive cooldowns they had. So how did that change your approach to designing the raid this time?
Yeah, going into Midnight, like encounter philosophy and things we wanted to change there, some discussions we had regarding like healer role gameplay was wanting to focus more on that moment-to-moment decision making rather than having to plan out, this long list of raid cooldowns to support these frequent and high damage burst moments. And so what that translates into for like the encounter design side of things is we wanted to provide more steady damage intake, create more of that classic healer triage gameplay moments. And so we did that by applying more scary dots to players, large healing absorption debuffs, and having more consistent raid rock. And so overall, our focus there was trying to provide more texture when you go from encounter to encounter, and kind of avoid things feeling a bit too samey. And hopefully we've hit that mark. We're always eager to hear feedback on this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, you can do your follow-up, Scott.
Oh, I was just, I mean, personally, I felt like the Paladins was a really good example of it, because even though there was that huge Ret Paladin, like, one shot on the entire raid, like, if you were topped before it went off, you had time to get back up and heal back up before the next thing came out. I think that boss was, like, a pretty good, like, that was probably the most dangerous boss in terms of, like, burstiness, I think. And I think it was done really well, so.
Yeah, I feel like this has been a post before the last like 2 expansions or something, where, and I know this is definitely, I think, 2 teams working together, which is encounter design and class designer. So, and we only have half of that puzzle here, right? But like, do you think that actually turned out where you guys wanted it? Because like I like what's happened the last couple expansions is like they're like, okay, healer stuff is too bursty now. They didn't remove all the healer cooldowns, but they're like, we're gonna increase HP and stuff like that, and then it ended up kind of by the end of the expansion after scaling, it just kind of felt the same, right? Which is probably why there's been repeated like attempts at this. Like, do you guys think that basically that it's in a good spot right now? I mean, obviously everything can always be improved, but like from the way you guys designed these bosses and the way that healers were changed, again, knowing that the class people half the puzzle are not here right now to answer this question, but like, do you think that like we are in a good spot with that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I mean, the goal wasn't to kind of remove that as a damage profile, but just kind of just make it less prevalent of a thing. And so that there is more differentiation with like how you strategize and approach an encounter. And so I do feel like there is a lot of variation there and that we've hit the mark. But again, always eager to hear feedback on this sort of thing and how you experience that as a player and any sort of suggestions or feedback you have there.
Okay. This is kind of a for fun question, but I feel like this is what went through my mind when the race was over. Obviously the secret phase thing was like the clips of our reaction to that were crazy, because even though we were pretty sure there was a secret phase, the boss was so hard that we had all convinced ourselves that there was no way there could possibly be a secret phase. And then those reactions were just insane. They were posted everywhere. They were on like mainstream like media outlets. My only question is like, what was the scene like for you guys? Was there a group chat? Was there a voice call? Were you guys like, I think it was on your day. You weren't at the office, I don't imagine, but like, were you guys just like waiting for the moment when all of our guilds realized that the boss wasn't actually over? Like, paint a picture for me.
Yeah, we definitely have a Teams call. We're kind of monitoring the race as closely as we can to make sure that things go smoothly, and also like each individual encounter designer is very eager to see their boss on the race to world first stage. It's kind of like a big celebratory moment, seeing your boss being fought and then eventually defeated. So yeah, we generally with each raid release, we're all in a call, kind of just discussing how the race is going. And I would say the secret phase was probably like the biggest moment we were all anticipating. We kind of assumed that you guys had data mined it, and despite what we have done with obfuscating the tooltips, we hinted at it pretty strongly with like the two abilities, severance and reintegration. So we kind of just assumed you guys knew it was coming, but as we saw both you and Echo get closer and closer to 0% health, we started to realize like you were all convinced that it wasn't gonna happen and that it didn't exist. And so the mind games of everything that's happening there, I think made for a truly surprising moment than a typical secret phase reveal. And so we were super happy with how that moment panned out.
Yeah, I would say we were happy. It was like such an insane whiplash of emotions. It was like, oh my god, we won. Oh my god, we didn't win. Oh my god, we're gonna go to sleep and we're gonna lose. It was just like a crazy whirlwind of emotions for the back half of that day. All right, Scott, do you have a? Oh yeah, we have another one.
Yeah, so the tune-in for the final bosses, and not just the final bosses, but even like Mugsy, for example, so far in the World Soul Saga has been like amazing. It's been like almost too amazing that it's like on a knife's edge, and I'm just wondering like how is it that good? Like how are the bosses tuned that well that like we are basically killing every boss on their enrage cast? Because Mugsy was right there, Demencius was right through his last devour. This boss we just killed as well. You know, we were super close to hitting the enrage. I think it was like 1.5 seconds from the secret phase cast that wipes you. It feels like almost too good to be true, the tuning, and I just wondered what the philosophy is there and how you achieve that.
Yeah, we do a lot of analysis to predict what groups are capable of at a variety of item levels. We also do a ton of playtesting with our QA UX group. So, you know, over the course of a development of a raid, we're building a lot of confidence by doing this analysis and constant playtesting and tuning testing to ensure that we've hit our targets. I would say that we have a pretty good model and pretty good tools for understanding what players are capable of. And we're only just refining those tools as we approach each tier and we learn about certain things. So we pay pretty close attention to the race too. Like I said, we make sure things are running smoothly, and we try not to intervene unless things are like preventing a kill from a mathematically impossible problem or like some bug and exploit. But once it's out in the wild, we have to kind of like trust in ourselves and trust in our team that we've analyzed things correctly. But you know, at the end of the day, we're only human. Sometimes we make mistakes. And if we do make a mistake, we try to correct it as quickly as possible in the best way possible. And then ultimately, like we know and understand how skilled and dedicated players are. We have this saying of like, players are going to find the damage. You know, we kind of have to trust that they're going to be able to kill a boss when it comes to this razor thin tuning. So, you know, things come naturally out of just repping on an encounter so many times and constantly finding ways to optimize and change your talent builds and such, or finding that passion damage. So yeah.
A small follow-up, but is there a boss so far in the World Soul Saga that you've been almost convinced at some point and maybe even got ready a nerf and then you finally saw us get through and kill it? Is there a boss like that?
I was going to ask the exact same question.
I think maybe nothing we prepared and didn't send, but I think Lura's phase 1 being as difficult as it was definitely made us think and reconsider about what you all had to come, like knowing that there was a very long road ahead, including a phase you didn't know about. We definitely sort of circled the wagons there and talked about whether you know, whether that was going to be an appropriate challenge, depending, you know, on how quickly and how consistent you were able to get through P1. So there are definitely a lot of doubts, but you guys pulled through in the end, as you always do.
Oh, so you were considering another P1 nerf after the one that was there, or like you thought about maybe making the initial one more?
We thought about making the initial nerf slightly more.
Yeah.
Because you know, it's just a very hard one, a hard phase 1, and as you guys know, a very difficult phase 1 can sort of make an encounter take a little bit longer and maybe overstay its welcome. But we wanted to make sure we struck a balance of providing a little bit more consistency in phase 1 versus outright removing a lot of the challenge that you guys had overcome and developed interesting strategies to counteract in phase 1.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know you guys are in a hard position too, because I think like nerfing a boss in the race before it's dead is like so challenging, right? Like you have to do it to where you feel like you are not like giving one guild an edge, and there's probably no perfect time to release it as well. And like I guess all you can do is try to make sure the guilds have been there like the same amount of time or something. But also it seems like you kind of do it in the morning. Like I think every nerf during the Race World First has happened at like 9 or 10 a.m. Is there like some? I'm assuming there's some kind of rule of like trying to be consistent there, or is it just does it vary?
It can vary, I think, depending on the nature of the fix that we need to make. A bug fix that is affecting the race in a very and players' gameplay in a very negative way is a very different thing than a nerf that we feel is appropriate. We try to do nerfs generally at times when, both or all guilds are awake and feel like they have, a competitive chance at killing the boss. And phase 1 nerfs like this that offer a little bit more consistency, where we have a little bit more flexibility because no one is like within reach of killing the boss at that time, right? We're really like aiming on making phase 1 more consistent, more repeatable, as opposed to like nerfing the last phase of something where we know we might be putting it over the precipice of being killed.
Okay. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's interesting. I do have one thing, and I did ask this in a previous interview, and I kind of got stonewalled, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen again. But if you have to do that, totally fair. But like, we're getting like a raid later on in the patch than we normally get. Like that hasn't happened in like a super long time. The last time it happened, that boss was super crazy. And I know like you can include everyone in the community by doing multiple difficulty levels, but is there like any indication of like whether this is a boss we can log in on and like really, like maybe in the future, this isn't going to happen this time anyway, but in the future, like have an event for it, right? Like there's multiple opportunities for that. Or is this like something that's more for the broader community? Is this just the Delve Belt, but in a raid form, right? As a way of like power, like what, do you have any idea, or I know, but like, can you let us know at all what like the intention for that content is?
Yeah. So, in the past, we've introduced these mid-patch raids. I think I have a lot of fond memories of Trial and Valor and Crucible of Storms. Like there's a lot of cool, unique encounters in there. But yeah, many people who played them remember like they were just bone-crushingly hard in terms of their difficulty. We do aim to make this raid more approachable. One of the pieces of feedback that we've heard a lot from Mythic players in particular and Heroic players is that it's very difficult to make that transition from Heroic to Mythic. So this is going to be a one-boss raid in Herondar called Sporefall. And we're excited that for the first time, we're going to be offering Mythic Flex difficulty. So you'll be able to have enter into Mythic with groups of 15 to 25 players. So we hope that will allow more groups who have maybe completed AOTC or their heroic goals to transition into Mythic. So that's really our goal with this piece of content, is to make sure that if you finish the season in your heroic group, that you feel like you can start to bite off a bigger challenge for your group and maybe think about a long-term road of transitioning into Mythic difficulty.
Wow. Okay, yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I was just thinking of like a follow-up, but that's math. Okay, so for the first time basically ever since Mythic, there's going to be the opportunity to go in with less than 20. I mean, you obviously have heard the community cries for like wanting 10-man, and basically what that is it's just a lot easier to find 10 people that you want to game with, right, than 20. So I think it's like more bridging the gap of getting heroic players into Mythic by just crossing off the we need more players thing. Okay, and then obviously needs to be approachable, right? I mean, this scenario where it's like nuclear hard, and then you're trying to get people into Mythic, and then the first time they step into Mythic, they're like, well, this isn't for me, right? That wouldn't really work out. So, yeah, okay.
I would not expect it to be the difficulty of Unot, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're excited by it. We're excited to hear feedback about it. We don't see this as something that we're going to immediately carry forward into other raids on Mythic difficulty, but it's just a piece of feedback that we've heard a lot of, that difficulty of constituting a 20-player raid group. If you have people, you don't have a long bench, or players who can sub in readily. So we're just excited to give it a shot. It's an experiment that we're doing, and we would love to hear your feedback on it.
Yeah, that's really surprising. The first thing I'm thinking about is we have 5 less players we have to sit for a progression boss, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's like part of the issue with the race is like everyone's in it to win, but like a third of your guild is sitting at all times. And even if the boss was harder, I'm sure we would try to just have more people be involved. Sweet. Have to recruit more healers probably. Very nice. That was awesome. Thank you guys. Scott, do you have anything else for them? I think it's about time, but
Yeah, no, I just appreciate you guys hopping on. It was amazing.
yeah, thanks guys.
Cool. Yeah, and congratulations again. We had a great time talking today, and I hope everyone's enjoying the raid.
Yeah. All right. Thanks guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thank you. So yeah.
Well, that was fucking huge. They're doing fucking Flex Mythic. That's like actually insane. No love you buy. Guys, guys, stream bits. That would be deeply unprofessional. That would be the last fucking Blizzard thing I'd ever do in my life. There's no way, man. It would go hard. It would go hard. If I ever want to go out, that would be crazy. Dude, that's wild. Dude, no wonder they wanted it streamed. That must have been what they were asking about. Because I told them at 11:30 or like earlier this morning. I know the Liquid Guild tweeted out that we were doing it today, but I just like kind of wasn't feeling it. I like woke up a little early. I basically forgot that my dogs were getting groomed this morning. So I got woken up before I wanted to a doorbell. And that's just, guys, I'm built like shit, so that can ruin my whole day. So I opened the door and I'm like, okay, so we got to get the dogs baths. That's going to take like an hour or two. And then I'm like, let's do this on YouTube instead of Twitch because I'm not ready for this now, right? My whole day is ruined. And then they were like, we think you might want to do it on stream. I'm like, okay. I don't know what the fuck that's about, but I'll trust you, Blizzardman. Yeah, it's interesting they went with 15 instead of 10. I feel like, because like the main reason it's hard to make Mythic Encounters 410 is, like, here, okay, I think if this was 7 years ago, they would have made this 10. But there's actually just too many raid buffs. If you do 10-man, you have to, like, completely change your game's philosophy around raid buffs. And, like, they can do that in the future if this plays out really well at 15. But, like, there's right around 15 raid buffs in the game. Is that correct? Let's do some thinking here. Let me pull up my handy dandy Google Sheet titled No. That's usually used for you guys predicting raid comps going into a tier. But maybe some of you guys remember, it is also a raid buff museum where we talk about how raid buffs have changed throughout the expansions. Okay, so in BFA, you only had 8 raid buffs. DK was arguable. The other ones are not. In Shadowlands, they added specifically just Enhanced Shaman. And then in Dragonflight, they added a second Paladin buff, Atrophic Poison. They added Aug as a spec. And then they added Hunter's Mark and Mark of the Wild in Dragonflight. Massive. You now have 15 raid buffs. Going into the War Within, they have removed the second Paladin raid buff. And now there's only 14. And Aug is, like, arguable. That's basically because of tuning. But it's, like, also just kind of always been the case. Or it's either been 2 dev, but you've basically played that in every raid. Okay, so now you have Midnight. And I believe outside of tuning, you know, I can move this over one column A. It's also not blood, but, like, let's just say it's DK. Although, again, This is for like end bosses, and I mean it is true. You do need a DK on every end boss. They have stuck to that, even though it's annoying. I'm here with you, but it's there. Rogue is also arguable, but only because of tuning. I mean, we ended up playing a Rogue on the end boss this tier. The reason you didn't play it earlier than that was because a Trophic Poison didn't attribute the fight's damage properly, which is an issue that needs to be solved. I don't really know how. And then also, their damage profile is just legendarily bad. It's not even just 1 DKs, it's like 2 DK now. Yeah. Also, the Hunter thing, too, you could almost say you need to... Anytime there's a second target that doesn't just get owned, like just anything. Picture any mob that ever spawns in a raid where someone says swap to this target, which is a lot, right? You basically second Hunter bare minimum you need for that. I think there's a world where Hunter would be tuned low enough to where you would actually just have your singular Hunter target swap his Hunter's mark on swaps. But Hunter would have to be pretty bad. We didn't see that this tier because Hunter was quite good, but okay, so I mean, if you look at it like this, you basically have 15 raid buffs. The ones that are not quite true is you don't really know if DK is going to be needed for, let's just say, the one boss raid. Let's make this about the one boss raid, right? You don't know about DK, you don't know about second Hunter, and AUG is purely based on tuning. Technically, your second AUG is worse than your first one, but I mean, it's so good that you just bring 2. So let's just say you only have 1. And even then, you don't really need AUG. Again, this is purely tuning. You do not need an Evoker buff in your raid at all. It's just, you simply don't. It's just, all the specs of Evoker are just so good that like the likelihood that you wouldn't even want one of them going into a tier is pretty low, but it's certainly possible. So if you look at it like this, you have these buffs in a 15-man mythic, and then you have 4 spots for flex. What does that look like if you make like a little raid comp? If you make like a little 15-man raid comp, what does that look like? If we were to make a 15-man raid comp based on current tuning, what does that look like? Let's see. Except it only goes to 15. You'd also have 1 less healer for sure in a 15-man, right? Yeah. Oh my god, the formatting doesn't work. Maybe even 2 healer. But, yeah, you can make it work. Okay, so... current tuning would have Prot Warrior, right? I think Prot Warrior is like just an absolute slam dunk. We'll hold off on the Druid for now. Let's just do the ones that are... You'd have a DH DPS somewhere. I don't think you'd play Vengeance. You'd have a Warlock. You'd have a Mage. You'd have a Shaman. Those are guaranteed required. You would have 1 Hunter. That's guaranteed required. Okay, so then now you have to find... you know, like, what actual kind of, like, variability do you have? It is Monk. So Monk could be all 3 roles. Windwalker is actually pretty good. Mistweaver's really good. Brewmaster's really good. Let's go ahead and play a Mistweaver. Let's go ahead and play a Healer Priest. Although Shadow Priest is quite good right now. I think they just fell off a little bit this tier because they're, they had a weird bug that took a while to get fixed, and then also they have like 0 movement, and Unat, you're just Unat, oh my god. Lura, you're just like permanently running around. So you could play Shadow, but whatever. Paladin right now, Holy Paladin's unplayable. Prop Paladin's fine, but not playing that. We'll play Ret. Rogue, I think it's fair to bring a Rogue. If the damage attributes properly, I'm sure they'll get buffed by this point. I just think a Trophic Poison with average tuning, you're going to always bring to a raid boss. They would have to be really bad, which they were this tier to not get brought, and even this tier they were still brought on the end boss, even though they were just not anywhere near good DPS. Okay, so now you have some choices, right? So if we were to just take this list and just remove everything we've done so far, we got that. We got all 3 of these. We got this. We got that. We got Shaman, Rogue, Hunter, Druid. We have Paladin. We have Hunter. Right? So, oh, we didn't do Druid yet. Okay, so we need Druid buff. So that is interesting. So Guardian is quite good, but also I think Guardian becomes way less of a consideration when their damage gets nerfed, and I just find it really hard to believe that Guardian Druid will go into another patch with the damage they have right now, personally. And Resto Druid's like a pretty good healer. I'm thinking like right now you'd actually slam like... This is looking in the future. I think you slam Resto Druid, because then that gives you some tank flexibility. I mean, you'd want healer flexibility too, but I mean, this is just a thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so you have that. Are we going to assume that in this one boss raid, they're going to adhere to the DK thing where you need grip specifically? And basically what that means is you have to spawn, like, and this is why I actually hate the DK raid buff. A little bit of a tangent here, but like the only way to make a boss be able to have grips is like, okay, let's say this is the main boss. And it's kind of immobile. It's like you don't really want to move it for some reason. And like everyone's behind the boss here. And then, you know, you're like looking at the boss like this. And then like ads have to spawn. For grip to be good, ads have to spawn like really far away. And they have to die really quickly. If they take too long to die, you can just like get them in or multi-dot them, right? So they have to need to die fast. And they have to spawn far away. If they spawn here, you don't need a DK. You can just like... Ring of Peace them in. You can Evoker knock them. You can Typhoon them. You can Thunderstorm them in. You could... There's like 3 other spells you could use to like get this mob on top of the boss. So they have to spawn far away. And then if you... And what they've done recently is they make it to where there's 4 of them on Dimensius, on Laura. They make it so you need 2 Death Knights now, right? So like that's kind of my biggest issue with like... I feel like every DK is just like, hey, man, give us like Horn of Winter or something, and it's like a 3% raid buff on the raid. 3% haste buff. Cool. Call it a day. You need a DK all the time. W. I just... The reason why is not just because it just kind of makes sense, but like, okay, let's say it's your bid that Death Grip is like super valuable and you need a DK. But then aren't you also just making it so every hard boss where you have to adhere by this, doesn't it limit you creatively in boss design to where like you basically just have to do this bit on every single end boss? Like, isn't it going to get old at some point? Like, isn't it? It just seems so one-dimensional to me to just feel like you have to do this just to satisfy this DK raid buff niche thing. I really wish that we could just move on. But it's all good, though. So let's just say it's a one-boss raid. It's intended to be more approachable. So LEU, by the way, get fucking smoked before you even wake up. Fucking wrong side of the ocean, big guy. But we have a DK buff. Fuck it. We're going to need a grip on this fight. And exactly 1, just for the sake of argument. Okay. Yeah, hashtag 7 in a row. But AUG here... Current tuning, you definitely run an AUG, and is it fair to say that, like, on most bosses, do they do a good job of making you actually want Evoker's utility? So, I think on Illyria, the answer is yes. There were classes that needed to be rescued across the platform, so at least one boss this tier, that was hard. I mean, maybe there's more. Like, you made use of what Evokers can kind of uniquely do. I think also, there's one thing that AUG has that or Evokers have that I think makes them an automatic raid buff, and it's not actually the Blessing of the Bronze, the thing that makes your movement speed get like a percentage reduction or something. I think that is a little underrated, actually. I've heard people say it's like worthless. It isn't worthless, but like if the class was ever tuned poorly, all 3 specs, I don't think you would play it personally because of that, at least. But Time Spiral, though, I feel like Time Spiral is actually... Like, sometimes rescue is required, but I feel like on every single fight, Time Spiral is super crazy good. Just a single Time Spiral. Sometimes 2, but, like, even just 1, like, on the best one, use is, like, crazy. So let's just throw an AUG in there, right? So this is kind of the issue with smaller raid sizes with their current philosophy is like realistically you could kind of move around where these are. Maybe it's a healer spot you have that's a flex. Maybe it's a tank spot you have that's a flex. But it's like basically one tank, one healer, or one DPS. Or if you just slammed raid buffs in your tanks and healer, maybe you have 2 DPS. Like right now with tuning, I'm pretty sure it's... Actually, AUG becomes worse in a smaller raid size, right? Because, like a second AUG, because the second AUG you bring, right, if you're running one AUG, they're buffing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 DPS, like real DPS. But if you bring 2 AUGs, they're buffing 8 DPS plus 1 AUG. Which if you add 5 more DPS classes, that actually ends up being AUG is still the best thing to bring. Like 2 AUGs is still broken. But I think with a smaller raid size, you actually wouldn't play second AUG. So I don't really know what you'd... It would just be like made up tuning what you'd play here. But you have 2 things of flex. Now let's do what we're going to do. Even if the boss is easier on 15-man, fuck that shit, bro. Let's make a 25-man comp for the first time in 14 years. Fucking fuck me up. Let's see what this looks like. Let's go. What does a 25-man raid look like in 2026? All right. Now it's much easier to bring things like your raid buffs, right? Also, I hate this being here. I'm just going to move this. Let's just go down here. All right, 25-man comp. We are going to add 2 more healers. Almost certainly 5 heal. Could 4 heal, but... You know what's interesting with healers? I feel like... I don't think it necessarily directly scales up with the amount of players, how many healers you need, because I feel like healing in a lot of cases, and this is less true in this expansion... But it's more about having coverage, like having cooldowns for certain raid mechanics, rather than needing a certain amount of HPS. Like typically when you look at the ability to 3 heal certain encounters or 2 heal in some rare circumstances versus 4 healing, which has been like the standard for many years, it's usually not like this boss does too much damage, we need more healers. It is usually, I mean, sometimes it can be, but it's usually like, we actually don't have enough healer cooldowns to cover all of the damage events that you need healer cooldowns for, so let's add a healer for now. Or, hey, I know this boss is like capping out our HPS, but I think we could potentially do it. Can you see what it looks like if we drop a healer? And then Luma will come back and be like, yes, you know, and we still can cover all these things. It's just going to be sketchy. But like if you don't have coverage for everything, then you start having to like assign health stones and health pots to live certain damage events. And that actually makes the boss significantly harder because... It's like really underrated how much value goes into having the players be able to healthstone and health pot individually based on like improvising basically, right? And if you remove that, you actually like exponentially increase the deaths that happen in your raid, and it's really sketchy. I'm on a really long tangent right now. It's all good though. I'm just fucking saying shit. So let's keep the same stuff. Let's just say you're bringing the druid buff from there. I don't think you'd play I don't think you'd play a DPS druid. Dude, class stacking is so back, right? Because, like, you could just, like, flex your tank. You flex these 2 healers. You run the raid buffs you need. You for sure are bringing, I think, 3 AUGs? Because 3 AUGs was really, really good this raid. And am I correct in thinking that the same logic that would make you not want to bring 2 AUGs in a 15-man would actually make you want to bring... The value of the extra AUGs increases with the total amount of DPS you add to your raid. So 3 AUGs would make this significantly... 3 AUG is definitely going to be good in 25-man, I think. Current tuning could obviously change. All right, then what the fuck do you bring? Like, there's nothing really that broken right now. Like, the only thing that's super broken is AUG, but, like, there's going to be diminishing returns at a certain point, right? Let's just go with things that I think are strong. So, like, I think, like, Warlock's good. Like, Warlock's, like, a solid 2 of. Mage, it depends on the fight, but Mage is pretty good. But I don't know if you'd necessarily play 2 of. I think it's fight dependent. I mean, you played 2 Mages on every boss this tier except for Lura, of at least the ones that mattered. Not Vanguards, actually. Shaman, there's scenarios where you'd stack a Shaman. You didn't know on Beloran. Hunter, I think Hunter's strong enough to where you just say, okay, there's probably a second target. Let's bring a second DK because AMZ is really good, and there's probably a second target to be gripped. Okay, now you have 4 DPS spots. Probably another Devourer, maybe. It's kind of... I mean, Devourer's like just kind of not good on certain bosses, but they're just the best thing in the world on certain bosses, and we don't know what the boss looks like yet. And then, so basically you just have 6 spots of flex, realistically, I think, in a 25-man current tuning. You guys are adding, like, asking me to add in certain classes and stuff, but, like, I don't... It's just, like, too fight dependent. Even, like, second Warlock and Hunter are, like, and DH are all fight dependent. I think triple log you'd run no matter what. Was there a healer? When was the last time in a 5 heal you brought 3 of the same spec? Muggsy, right? 3 Mistweavers? Was that a 4 heal? On Paladins you played 3 Mistweavers? Yeah, but that wasn't, like, needed. Like, we played 3 Mistweavers, and it was really good, but, I mean, I think Echo played a Resto Druid instead of one of the Mistweavers, and that's still, like... I mean, that's, like, the same shit, right? They were both good. What would the comp look like if you did Lura with 25, man? Ooh, that's fun. That's really fun. Let's do that instead. So, 10... Wait, what's the patch? 12.0.5? 12.0.7 raid? Alright, dude, Lura. Let's do Lura 25, man. Ooh, and then let's do Lura 15, man. Alright. Lura 25, man. Would you... I mean, I still feel like Guardian... So, I'm going to play Guardian. Just because... I think having 2 Roars in this fight is good. You run the second Druid. And you don't need the DK for grouping. Like, let me show you our kill. So typically how you do Lura. More coggy load, right? Oh, I hate hearing myself talk. All right, let's look at it from a DK perspective because he's the actual person doing it. All right, so let's actually look at the third set. So on the first 2 sets, right, it's really easy. You just have, there's basically 4 crystals that are on the outside, and you have the 1 DK look to the right, 1 DK look to the left. Wall life grips these 2 crystals, and it's done. Okay, on the third set, this is the second set. On the third set, because there's no healer crystals, it spawns 6 adds on the outside. This is conventionally why everyone initially ran 3 DKs. So what you do with 3 DKs is basically 1 DK grips from the right, and they grab the right 2. 1 DK grips from the left. Let me go to a different perspective so you can see the actual, like, point of view difference here. Okay. Okay, so what's supposed to happen is one person is supposed to grip this one, and it's kind of ambiguous right now, but one of these 2, right? This other person's supposed to grip the far left 2. Let's say those are yellow. This one and this one. And the other player is supposed to grip... The third player now has to grip the 2 central ones, but because this has to be done very quickly, it's kind of hard to tell immediately, and you have to make this decision immediately, which one are the 2 middle ones, right? Like, I feel like this person could be like, oh, it's probably these 2. They're in the direct middle, but then they have to parse in real time that it's actually this one and this one. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely confusing. So why we swapped to Guardian was it actually simplifies grips. Because there's only 4 that are actually really far from the way to away from the boss that needed grips, it's just simple. Just you look to the right of the boss and behind the boss, and now Wall Life grips this one and this one. And then a Shine grips this one, and this one. And then now that just remains 2. You have to knock in this one under the boss, and you have to knock this one under the boss. And we found it to be a lot more consistent without a third DK, because just adding rings and knocks was just more people involved, made it more simple. So it wasn't like such a precise DK thing. Like it sounds stupid, but like 3 DKs precisely gripping 6 mobs that are not in the same spot every pull can definitely, I mean, this caused wipes. Like 1 out of 7 pulls, we like double gripped the same mob or something. It was definitely hard. And especially when there's like a million glaives on top of you, sometimes like it just makes it really hectic. And we ended up doing this. So like those 2 get gripped. And then now I'll pause it. These 2 get gripped. And those are the 2 that I told you needed knocks. And now we have, on this side, we have 1 evoker, 1 ring, and a typhoon if necessary. On this side of the boss, we have an evoker knock, a ring, and whatever. And back here, we have thunderstorm. And then we Ursol under the boss in case anything ever gets knocked too far. The one we actually knock there, we double ring just to keep them in. We have Ursol, and then the things just like kind of die because we had a lot of damage. But it's usually cleaner than that. Usually there's like another knock into an Ursol, but this is just from our kill. So I did all of that mostly again just to be yapping, but also I feel like you don't need 3 DKs was my thing if we're making a 25-man Lura comp. Triple AUG without question. Who are your seed holders in a 25-man? Is there an extra seed? At least one more Rhett because they pumped on Laura. Did they? I think Rhett did good, but I think it might be P1 padding. It looked really good on logs because on logs or on details because on details it on details, it like attributes the Dawn Crystal damage to yourself, and for whatever reason, Rhett does more damage with Dawn Crystal. I mean, he still did really, really well, though. Let's check boss dam, because that's like the most important thing, at least before nerf. Actually, this isn't super easy, right? Because one of these is like... it only shows like half... Do you have to run a script to see boss damage? Is there an easier way to do this? Oh, yeah, you're right. All bosses. I'm dumb right there. So still really solid, and I think he hard carried the ads. Like him and the hunters did really good on the ads. I guess it was like pretty similar. I think he ended up swapping to more boss damage later. Okay, so you probably... We had a mage hold a crystal, even though that class is not very tanky. It was just because he's good. But you probably go seed. If you were to run this back, you'd run triple seed on evoker because cheat death and slightly more tanky than mage. You definitely go 2 seed on DH. You need 2 more if they add another seed in 25-man. Although, I don't think you would add a seed on 25-man Laura, because it's all symmetrical, right? Like, when you break into the last phase, there's, like, exactly 6 seeds, and the fight is supposed to be done with, like, you know, it's like 3 on each side, kind of. Like, what the fuck do you do with a 7th seed? That doesn't even make sense. Maybe it extends the Enrage more at the end of P3. Let's just say 6. So you'd want to have the best seed holders. All right, hear me out. Hear me out. It's going to sound stupid. What I'm going to say is going to be stupid. It's all bad. But hear me out. You never have a single seed wipe. You just eliminate seed wipes from progression. They're just fucking gone. They have the most... And I feel like some people don't really understand how insane their blink is. But they have... in my opinion, the best movement ability in the history of this game. Actually, wait. Rider of the Apocalypse Horse is better, right? I mean, they're better at different things, but I think it's that good. I think the triple charge on Devour DH's little dash thing is like as good as DK having a 10-second mount speed also have Death's Advance effect. It's that good. It's better than Shimmer was, like before. I think it's that good. Okay, so you do this, and then you throw one extra seed on your best player, probably, but let's just slam it on, like, an Aug, maybe. Your best, the least dumb Aug Evoker. Is this cooked? Healing becomes a lot easier. Where's the damage taken from fucking... What is the dot called? Is it glimmering? Look at this. The DHs have less than the mage. The DHs have less damage taken from this than the mage, and they have like 50 more hits. Look at that. Fucking beast mode. And that's not accounting for them leeching some of the damage back, yeah. Okay, and being the easiest of any class to do it. Okay, but let's say you don't hit the DPS check. Probably facts. Also, can I just show one thing that was happening on our kill that makes me... Our Demon Hunters are so stupid, bro. 1 second. At the end of the intermission... At the end of intermission 1, they would always sync up their basketball dunks, and they would ping each other. They're literally spam pinging themselves so they can sync up their fucking their basketball. Literally mid-prog, bro. Just fucking check this shit out. It's on the kill, by the way. Okay, so you don't beat the DPS check with this comp. Do you bring a third one though? Can we meet halfway? Can you play 3 and then it's just Augs and DHs only? Cheat death class or unbelievably broken movement, no damage taken class? Max, do you meet the DPS check if you bring 2 more Augs? I'd have to check, but I mean, Aug is like... In a 25-man, 2 is like... They're the best class in your raid by far. And 3 is probably still the best class in your raid by far. I think after that, you're starting to stretch it, but I don't feel like doing the math on that right now. Like, basically, here's what I think. Going into this tier... Knowing how good 1 Aug was and knowing how Aug DRs, I'm like, bro, Aug would have to be way too fucking good for you to ever want to bring 2. But then, like, the difference between 1 and the second is, like, almost nothing somehow. I don't know. It's just so... The class is just insane. What do you bring to beat the DPS check going into P3? If you sort this, damage done to bosses... Damage done to bosses, and you sort before P4... Who is getting you into the last phase? I mean, an extra AMZ would kind of go crazy. An extra AMZ would go kind of crazy. Do you play an extra rogue to have 3% more DR on the split in P3? And same question for Ret Paladin. I think you maybe just play like... Maybe you play 3rd DK for Boss Dam plus AMZ, and then maybe 2nd Paladin, because they're just kind of good on the fight. And the immunity doesn't really matter. You don't need an extra immune. If you had 10 rogues with the boss do 30% less damage? No. People make up that works before every tier, though, and then we have to go test it just to find out that it doesn't work. But people just keep making it up. Just keep doing that, by the way. I love having to go test if that still works. It did work before Manaforge Omega, specifically on the PTR, months before the season came out, and then it stopped working, but people said it worked like right up until progression and during progression. It's amazing. If that worked, I don't think you guys understand how broken that would be. Yes, it would start DRing, but like you could play like 5 rogues and get like your raid would be taking like 10% less dam all the time. It would be extremely good. Like insanely fucking good. But boss would die slower. Yeah, I mean if you lost to a DPS check, but like I don't know, progressing bosses like let's get to see the enrage with us taking infinitely less damage, and then we'll add damage when we need it. That is like a really easy way to progress a hard boss rather than like sending it with kill comp from pull 1. It actually like just even how much better people get at doing damage from just consistently seeing from the beginning to the end, even if it's not a kill, is like the difference between that and just like chain wiping in P1. That's why bosses with hard P1s are so difficult, because people, it's so much harder to learn how to be the best you can be on that fight when you're just not in those phases as much. A really hard P1 makes even a not as hard P2 and P3 much harder, because you're just simply, it's just really hard to be consistent when you're not there a lot. Yeah, as Zyro said, P1 is everything, as I like to say. You'd be taking 72.3% of the normal damage. Yeah, there's like some multiplicative bullshit on it, though. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. I don't know. Does this look good? I mean, I guess you could argue that if you were playing 25-man, the DPS check on the P1 crystals would go up, which would make you want to play more. Like, first set of crystals, I think, just get nuked in Hunter CDs, if I remember. I guess also the Demon Hunters are doing well, and we added another one of those. I think the second one, we didn't have either of our Hunters have CDs for. I think that's Rhett, if I'm correct. Oh, also made up. Also just Demon Hunters and Warlocks. We didn't add a Warlock, but we added an extra DH, so you assume the second ads would be good, most likely. And then the third ads, we moved our Hunter CDs back to the third ads. We initially took them off, but once we're holding DPS anyway. Dude, mark gap, actual mark gap. Did they have different cooldown timings, or is this just like a stealing the pie situation? Because I don't think we ever moved Yargi's cooldowns up. We did initially, but we moved them back because we didn't need the boss damage. No, I think Yargi was actually still doing the old timings. Oh, it's PI, bro? Dude, is Mark actually straight fucking PI gapping? Yeah. This is a farm, bro. Yips, yips, yips. Mark seemed like a goat this whole raid. Mark had a very good raid, yeah. I mean, Mark always does well. I definitely think he had a little something extra this raid. He was cooking with gas. But also it's hard to tell, like, and even Mark said this himself, like, he had an extremely small amount of glaive hits compared to everyone else, but he's the only DPS in the raid that wasn't assigned to a kick, and he's also not carrying a seed. And I feel like when you remove all other responsibility in P1 and your only job is to not get hit, I feel like it definitely is going to improve consistency slightly. But yeah, Mark's a huge beast. Also, there were a few wipes where, or not wipes, there were a few pulls where someone missed their kick, and Mark, do you know how hard it is when kicks look like this? Kicks are going this fast. They're like a second and a half. They're fucking rapid firing. And then you have to have someone back up. Like, think about this. Everyone has to focus their guy right now. You have to focus your kick. All right, you're getting your kicks. Now imagine someone says, oops, I missed. And you're the backup kick. How the fuck are you supposed to know which one got fucked up? You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's not always like, oh, this one has more stacks. A lot of it isn't like a kick didn't happen. Like, they just sent theirs too early and like double kicked or something, or juiced it, right? They juiced their kick. And like, he actually had to back this up, and he did that pretty consistently. I don't really know how. Honestly, he might have just been YOLOing it, but that goes hard either way. Does Solar Beam work on them? No. On our very first pull of this boss, we tried, or we didn't. We never tried Solar Beam. Oh no, we tried it in Heroic, I think, and it didn't continually interrupt them. It basically like silences don't work. I mean, it does work if like you cast silence as your kick, but like it doesn't repeatedly silence them or whatever. It like continues to kick them. When you did the end of night interview and mentioned they patched this mech by adding things to the boss frames, I was like, bro, how the fuck did they expect people to do it originally? Well, they did it by we did it by making unique identifiers. Does anyone still have a picture from that? That has to be like an okay clip. There has to be a clip. Probably on Wowhead. Oh, it's got to be a Wowhead article. Dude, shout out that guy in my chat who was like, I'm 30 minutes late to this interview because you named your stream Beetle. Bro, what can I do? All right, top 30 days. Fired Up's... You're telling me Fired Up's sub ran out has more views than our kill? I guess that kind of makes sense. Didn't this clip get like... I saw this clip late at night on Twitter from like PC Gamer tweeted this shit or something. It kind of went viral, which is a very classic Fired Up moment of finding a way to go viral with some shit like that. How the memory add-on works. Phase 4, take 2. 4 in a row. 4 in a row. What is this when we killed fucking...
Good job,
Where's
guys.
Shay? Was he safe?
Fucking go.
Yeah.
Yo,
My bad, guys.
World first. Look at chat, bro. Yes!
4 in a row.
Oh, and
4 in a row.
perfect THD timing there. You know, before this tier, we talked about doing a bit where if we did kill Dream Rift first, that we would like pop the fuck off like we won the race to world first. I think there's definitely a reality out of like 1,000 realities we pull that off and it's very funny. But I think in most realities it would have been extremely cringe. So I'm kind of glad we didn't do that. Orange square. What the fuck are these clips? Let's go. Wait. Yeah. Where's the someone had to have clipped the initial add-on we were using. Add-on explanation. No, it would be like a clip of one of our early polls. I think I'm better off finding it on Wowhead. Wowhead Liquid Lura add-on. There was like a big post. Oh yeah, here we go. One fix positioning add-on makes... No. Where's the other one though? Terminate. This one seems to no longer work. No, this isn't it. This shows them being marked. Oh no, this is it. It shows the thing. So basically on our nameplates, it showed these markers, 0B, 0A, and 1A. We did this to make kicks consistent. Basically, there's no way to... If you were just able to auto-mark something, you would just know you're, like, the third kick on Moon. But, like, you can't really auto-mark anymore. That's one of the, like, 3 things that you used to be able to do that you truly cannot do anymore. So we were like, okay, well, how do we uniquely identify each one of these nameplates to get, like, consistent kicks early in progression? And... this was one of them. Basically, each one of these matrix, they have like a unique identifier. And all I believe this is it's just showing the last 2 digits of it. It's like 1,000,000 characters long, but like it just shows the last 2 digits of it just so we can assign kicks. Like initially they come out, they're not marked. THD, for example, or someone is assigned and they have a macro that marks the thing that they're mousing over with an X. And it also kicks it So now everyone else knows to focus moon. And that's just a way that the first 3 people who have to mark actually differentiate their targets. And then that's how we solved this initially. And then they were like, we hate this. So we're like, okay, let's do something else. But the good thing is, if you guys notice, these termination matrices are not boss frames right now. If you look on our kill, they are boss frames. When the kicks happen, they are all boss frames. That was done as a reaction to them nerfing this. They were like, all right, fuck it, we'll make them boss frames. But like, high key, if they were just boss frames from the very beginning, we would have never even used this, right? I just feel like they just should have been boss frames straight up. What is this? This one no longer seems to work, or it did still work. They just told us that they were going to blow us up. Actually, they did hotfix it in not too long. No, I don't know if they ever hotfixed that. They were just like, we hate this. And we're like, heard, got it. Memory mechanic on Mythic Lure is way more complex. Players are split into 3 phases. Check out the 2 different POVs to see the same pattern. Dude, people were going absolutely ballistic when we did this. Just because, and I've explained this a few times, but like when you look at this and you have no knowledge of how it works, it looks like the most jailer bomb ass automated fucking peak weak auras Archimond bullshit that's ever existed. You're like, this is the and also I think it had extra shit to it because before the tier they were like, we can finally design mechanics now without add-ons, and this was like kind of the one everyone thought that they were talking about, and then it just looks so bad. But it's just, I mean, I'm not going to explain it again, but it's like the most basic weak aura that is just, it's basically reading raid chat to you and then just showing you a map. Like, basically, if you take a few layers away, this little list is just people typing in order what they see in raid chat, except we replace some icons, which for some reason they're fine with, to show the actual icons instead of, like, using raid markers in raid chat, like X triangle. We used square for T because there isn't, like, a good T. And then orange and then triangle, right? And then we replaced some game files and made them this. And then we created and then we copied Echo because Echo did this, but they did it even better where they like correlated the marks with like their actual raid marker thing just to like make it easier to see. And then the map is there, but it just looks so insane. Dude, what was the now that like you can't really do automated stuff like that anymore, what is actually the most insane one? Is it the Archimond weak aura? Method Archimond.
Hanging on for dear life.
What? Nah, we ain't looking at that shit right now. No AFK Jern. No tier lists. I am a man that loves a tier list, though.
Foolish crusade ends here.
This. Here we go. Look at this. So basically, these beams spawn and they had arrows, and if you ever cleaved another person, you instantly died. A lot of people know about this, but just... So it's a trip down memory lane for some of you, and for others, it is a... it is maybe you're learning some new information, but basically, it showed your line in blue, it showed every line from everyone else that you were safe from in green, and then if you were in someone else's line, it was red, and it had an X over your character, and then the correct way to solve this was, if you were green, if everything was green around you, you stood still, and let's say this person's in a blue line right here, you have to move along this line if you're this player. That's the way you properly solve this. If you move in a different direction, right, if this person chooses to move, this is this person's character, if they move here or here, they're now moving their line to hit this person, and they're moving their line to hit this person. So you have to move alongside the trajectory of your arrow. If you see the arrow behind them, it's really smart. I think Potom made this, if you guys remember him from Method. Potom was the creator of this, I believe. And the line, you have to move along this line if you're in someone else's line, basically. That's the way you solve it. So then he solves it by doing exactly what I just said, and then they're good. So that's how that worked. Paragon did this relatively... I don't think they did it natty. I think they had some tech. It just like wasn't as good. But it did look natty, I believe. Okay, so then you have, what's the second most insane weak aura? Like, what immediately pops to your mind with weak auras? I have one that I don't think you're going to think about. Oh wait, okay, most of you guys are mentioning it. Yeah, it's the Echo of Neltharion map. Shout out Bart. Bart came up with some crazy nonsense.
Could you hear me or was I muted?
So basically, we found that if you, when P3 started, if you pulled the boss to an exact position, it would create the exact same walls. And so when that happened, all the walls would spawn, and then a map would show up on your screen that would show you where your soak is, that would correlate with your position in the area. So it's like kind of hard to see because it's translucent right now, but it shows Atlas's soak is in this green spot and everything else is someone else's spot. And it follows your exact character by using the mini map. Look at this, bro. So Fired Up sees his is over there. So he's like, fuck, how am I going to get to that? He blinks, and then he finds his exact thing if you're watching the arrow. And then he moves in at the last second, and that's how you solved it. I mean, you could do this without this, just by having assigned spots, but it's like obviously so insanely broken. Now, keep in mind, this is all manual. This outside of the players, all this is a PNG on top of your mini map, like replacing your mini map, and then Fired Up. His little character icon here is just his character on the map. So like what we actually had some wipes to was if the boss wasn't like exactly right here, like I'm talking, if his circle was in some cases like this is where his actual circle is here. If he was like this, bro, like just barely off, it would spawn a completely different portal, and then someone would like go to their green marked spot right here, and like it would just not be there. And then they're like, do I die? Or do I just, I guess in his case, he can immune. Like, do I die, or do I like try to grab someone else's spell or grab someone else's circle? Because there is going to be a free soak. You just have to like kind of memorize where it would be. Max, how is this different than Rygalon if the spots were static? What did we do on Rygalon? Oh, these... Well, I think these were the same every single pull, right? Like, they never changed based on boss position. They were... Like, you just knew where your spot was. You never had to guess where your spot was. It's like a very clear, spread out thing. I think the reason why this is different than Rygalon, because even if you're saying, like, okay, these are static as well, these are also static. But, like, I think this is a lot less visually clear. Like, when you see the other picture, like, one soak is here, one soak is here, one soak is here. It's, like, very visually distinct where they are. This is like a soup of soaks. It's just too close together. Yeah. All right. I think I'm fresh out of